everyone, this is Jackie Williams, and in this video I want to share with you a fun blending brush technique. And this is kind of a mix of different things I've seen over the years and tried. So I'm going to start with just the basic idea, and we'll do a project together that's a little bit stepped up. And then I have some samples to share with you to show you even more variations. So to show you the basic idea, I just have some basic white, and I have the leaf image from the Gorgeously Made stamp set. And I'm just going to stamp that 3 times in basic black. Next, I'm going to take my trimmer and I'm going to cut that into 3 pieces. Now you could do 2 pieces or 4 pieces, whatever works. And they don't all need to be the same. But I'm going to do about 1.5 inches, which is approximately the same. And my intention was to have these images kind of overlap onto the various pieces, but I see I accidentally did a pretty good job of getting one image on each piece. Now I have my blending brushes here, and I have Old Olive, Pretty Peacock, and Berry Burst. I always like to try and use the brush before I actually put ink on it so that you get generally a softer look than if you had inked it up and then put it right onto your paper. And of course, if you want more, you can always add more color. Now for this demonstration, I'm just going to add ink on one side. Oh, there's quite a bit on this brush. And then the Old Olive. And then we would use these 3 pieces like this to create a card front. So the idea behind this card is that you can make your whole card using just basic white and then adding color with your blending brushes and your ink pads. Now I did add a basic black label here. Now you see here I've inked it a little bit differently. I put Old Olive on both sides, Pretty Peacock, and then on the ends, whereas here I just did it on one side, which I think looks quite nice too. So I'll finish that card off. So now let's make a project together. So I have a piece of white here that is 3 3/8 by 4 inches. Of course, you can adjust that size to fit whatever your project is. And I am going to use this large leaf stamp from the Joy of Noel stamp set. And then I'll be using 1 die from the die set. Now this is such a big image, I'm just going to stamp it twice for this particular project like this. And I have stamped that with Pebbled Path for a little bit softer look than the black. Now I'll also cut this one into 3s. Now my piece is 4 inches, so they're not going to be all exactly the same, but that's okay. I'll just do about 1 1/4. Now for this one, I want to use more traditional Christmas colors, and I'm going to use Old Olive then and Cherry Cobbler. And I think I'll use the Old Olive on the top and bottom pieces. Now there was enough ink in my brush that I didn't need to put ink on it. For this one, I didn't actually have a Cherry Cobbler brush, so I'm going to put some ink on it. I do recommend that when you're wanting a really soft look like this, that you brush off quite a bit of the ink before putting it onto your project. I know it probably feels quite wasteful, but you'll end up with a better effect and I think be happier with your finished project. So there are our pieces, and now I've cut a piece of white that is 3 1/2 inches wide, so just slightly wider than these, but 4 1/2 inches tall. So it's a full 1/2 inch taller. And then I find it's easiest to put the top and bottom ones on first, and then put that center one on. Just make sure that those 2 gaps are about the same. And I think that looks pretty cool as is. Now I have embossed a card background with the new Distressed Tile embossing folder. Love this one, and I think it actually works really nicely for Christmas cards as well as general. Now before I put this on, I'm going to put on a little bit of ribbon, and I thought this organdy glitter ribbon was quite nice. So I'm keeping everything on this card white or translucent, And the only color is where I have added color with the blending brush. So for the minute, I'm just gonna tape one side, just tie a second piece around, and then I'm just gonna tuck this underneath these panels. So I've just got a little bit of that sparkle ribbon peeking through the seam there, and then I will make a bow here. Now you can always use your glue dots to get your ribbons to behave a little bit better if you need. Now, because I tied that on separate, you can slide it over. So I'm just going to move mine over to the left a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and put that on my card front. I actually really like these colors. Now I have cut the Noel, and I have used the Mossy Meadow. And in keeping with the feel of the card, I'm just going to take a little bit of that Old Olive ink. I'm just going to ink the bottom of these letters just to make them a little bit darker. Now this is a good opportunity to use those mini dimensionals, and then just start by putting your N on, and I'm going to go right over that seam and make sure your N is going the right way. We'll put the O on, and I intentionally want it to go off the edge there. I think it looks quite nice when your elements are just a little bit asymmetrical. They're not all right within the box. Now, of course, you could orient the card this way and have the Noel all in one line rather than doing it in a box or a square like this. There we go. And then we just need some gems. And I want to use these sparkle gems. These are a favorite for this Christmas season. I've used up all the champagne colored ones, and I'm combining it with the iridescent pearls. And there we go. I actually love that Christmas card. And here is one that I have done in a different colorway. In this one I have used Lost Lagoon and Fresh Freesia, and I just noticed that I forgot to put the Wink of Stella on my berry. So this still keeps it a very neutral color scheme. A little bit of something. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but I think it really adds. All right, let me show you a few other samples using this technique with some variation. So we've seen this one already. So this one I inked both sides and of course oriented it the other way. And then on this one I have used the Boho Beach stamp set and cut them in a square, and then just inked the inner corners in different colors. And this one is actually a really similar design. I just have one less layer I see, and I've used Very Vanilla here, and I've used the inked and tiled stamp set with that beautiful leaf image, and then of course some different colors. And then for my last sample, I have used the new Deckled Circles dies, which are a fast favorite of mine. And for this one, so then instead of cutting strips or squares, I have cut my piece into a partial circle, into rings. And I couldn't actually put a little space in between them just because the circles, you know, become smaller, so they weren't fitting very well. But I still think it's a nice variation of the technique where you stamp, you cut up the image, ink it, and then put it back together. And for this one, I've used the Dainty Delight, and I have heat embossed that as another variation. And then when I inked it, the image came through. So there are all my samples, and I hope you enjoyed this idea of how you can make a card using just basic white or Very Vanilla and your ink colors. And I hope you give it a try. Please leave me a comment, share this video with your friends, and of course subscribe. This is Jackie Williams, and I'll see you next video. Bye-bye.